The diligent hand makes rich, but the lazy hand makes poor. Proverbs 10:4. Wise man, take a deep breath. Now is the moment to rest your mind and your heart, so that you may learn a little more. I know your day of work has been hard, and perhaps your mind is filled with worries, but here you are entering a place of rest. Sit as someone who has just arrived at my palace in Jerusalem, not as a mere visitor, but as an intimate friend who came to hear the counsel of a king who learned directly from the Lord what it means to prosper through diligence. Lay aside, even if just for a few moments, the weight of responsibilities and simply listen with an open heart. In this moment, I want to guide you through a different kind of experience. It will not be a cold reading of Scripture, nor an academic study. You will hear the wisdom given to me by the fear of the Lord, interwoven with reflections that touch practical life, and also with moments of prayer that open the soul to God's direction. I will speak to you as though I were speaking to myself, as if we were side by side, walking through the gardens of my palace or seated before a table of counsel. Every word you now hear is part of an invitation to live with more clarity, more discipline, more purpose. And do not be startled, wise man. I will speak to you as if I myself were Solomon, because in this way you will be able to feel more deeply the weight of my experience and my journey. Imagine yourself transported through time, seated with me, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of years spent seeking to understand life, work, relationships, and above all, the will of the Lord. Receive my words not merely as ancient counsel, but as living directions, fresh and applicable to your day today. Before we go further, I want to pray for you. Lord Father of all wisdom, open the ears of the wise man who now listens to me. May his soul understand the paths of diligence. May he not only listen, but also practice with joy and faithfulness what he learns. May every step he takes be guided by your truth, and may his prosperity be the fruit not of chance, but of obedience. May this moment of communion between us produce deep understanding and transform the way he sees his work, his purpose, and the bonds of his life. Amen. Wise man, if this moment of rest and wisdom already makes sense to you, if my voice has brought relief to your heart and clarity to your mind, I ask you, leave your support now. Give your like to this video and subscribe to the channel. This simple action will ensure that you continue receiving my edifying counsel, and it will also allow other wise men to find this path of wisdom and prosperity. For the journey we will walk together is not of a single day, but of many steps that I will still take by your side. Wisdom does not visit the idle. Wise man, allow me to open the Scripture with you. Let us go to Proverbs chapter 6, beginning in verse 6 and continuing through verse 11. Listen as though you were seated at my side, for these were words I wrote to awaken the careless heart. Consider the ant, O sluggard. Observe her ways and become wise. She has no chief, no overseer, no ruler, yet she stores up her provisions in the summer and gathers her food at harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed warrior. What I wanted to show here is simple. Diligence does not wait for someone to press it. It moves on its own, out of wisdom, out of prudence, out of the fear of the Lord. But laziness lies down, delays, hides behind excuses, and then poverty arrives without warning, with irresistible force, sparing no one who lives carelessly. See clearly, wise man, what destroys the life of many is not a scandalous mistake nor an obvious sin. No, it is something far more subtle. Negligence masked as prudence, delay disguised as spirituality. Many of you pray for prosperity, ask for open doors, plead for God to raise you up. But when the moment to act comes, you wait for some extraordinary confirmation, a grand sign, a courage that never arrives. And so, time slips away like water through the fingers, and nothing is accomplished. The ant, which cannot speak, teaches more than many teachers. She acts before necessity. She does not wait for scarcity to work. She works while the sun is still shining, so that in the night there will be no lack. The wise man understands. The perfect moment will never come. Life is made of movements of faith. You plant while there is light, but you remain steadfast even when the winds shift, because you know God honors those who rise and act in due season. Now I want you to imagine with me a little parable, wise man. There was a man who received seeds from heaven itself. Each seed was an opportunity, a skill, a resource given by God. But fearing the drought, he chose to keep the seeds in the sack. Every day he looked at them, proud to have received them, yet he never cast them into the soil. The seasons passed. The harvest time arrived, and when he opened the sack, all that remained was dust, seeds dried and useless. Thus lives the lazy man, full of excuses yet empty of fruit. He always says he will begin tomorrow, that he is waiting for the right time, but when he looks back, he has nothing to show. What I want you to understand is that diligence is not merely working hard. It is working at the right time with the right motivation and toward the right purpose. So I ask you, are you planting the seeds God has given you, or only watching them dry up? Wise man, allow me once again to open the word for you. Let us now turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, beginning in verse 4 and continuing through verse 10. Listen carefully, for here I left a precious counsel. Whoever watches the wind will never sow, and whoever gazes at the clouds will never reap. Just as you do not know the path of the wind, or the mystery of how bones are formed in the womb of a pregnant woman, so you cannot comprehend the works of God, who makes all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and in the evening do not let your hands be idle, for you do not know which effort will prosper, this one or that, or if both alike will be good. Light is pleasant, and it is good for the eyes to see the sun. However, if a man lives many years, let him rejoice in them all, but let him also remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. Everything to come is vanity. Rejoice, young man, in your youth, and let your heart be glad in the days of your strength. Walk in the ways of your heart, and in what your eyes see. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. So banish anxiety from your heart, and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are fleeting. And to strengthen this principle, I want to bring a word from my father David. In Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, he wrote, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. Instead, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on that law he meditates day and night. This man is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers." What he meant is that true prosperity does not depend on external circumstances, but on the position one takes before God. Now see, wise man, Many say they are simply planning better, that they are waiting on God. But I ask you, is it not fear hiding behind those words? Fear of failing, fear of exposure, fear of wasting strength. There are those with notebooks full of plans, but hands empty of action. And this is vanity. What separates dreamers from the wise is movement. Those who calculate endlessly lose the opportunity of harvest. But the diligent man understands, human guarantees do not exist, but divine faithfulness does. He plants even when the skies appear uncertain, for he trusts that it is the Lord who sustains the fruit, not the conditions of the climate. And I want you to picture the image my father David left, the tree planted by the river. It flourishes not because water is always present, but because its roots are deep. If the river dries up for a time, it does not die because it sought nourishment in depth. Laziness is shallow. It only acts when all is easy. But diligence digs deep, works in silence, builds in secret. When the heat comes, when scarcity threatens, it is depth that ensures the fruit. Wise man, what I tell you is this: make your daily discipline an act of faith. Pray, work, repeat, persevere. It does not matter if no one sees. It does not matter if no one applauds. Whoever honors God with diligence will be upheld by him in due season. Wise man, I want you now to take a deep breath and close your eyes for a few seconds. Let this moment be a spiritual pause in your heart. Reflect. In which areas have you been diligent? Where does laziness still hide beneath polished excuses? Let this soft music fill your surroundings. Speak to God even now. Ask for clarity. Ask for direction. Ask for strength, not to delay what must be done. And if you wish, share your prayer request in the comments. Write your name, your city, and the challenge you have been facing. Here we are not alone. We are a community of wise men interceding for one another. You may pray for others, and others will pray for you. For here we are not merely listeners, we are brothers in faith, wisdom, and communion. Empty effort is work without fear. Wise man, let us now open the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 2, beginning at verse 18 and continuing through verse 26. Listen to my words, for they were born from a heart that observed the paths of men and recognized their vanity. I hated all the toil I had under the sun because I must leave its fruit to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will rule over all the work I labored for with wisdom, knowledge, and skill. This also is vanity. What does a man gain for all the toil and anxious striving with which he labors under the sun? All his days are filled with pain, and his work is grief. Even at night his mind does not rest. This too is vanity. So I realized that there is nothing better for a person than to eat, drink, and find satisfaction in their labor. This too, I saw, is from the hand of God. For to the one who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a chasing after the wind. Do you see, wise man, the anguish I expressed? Many of you labor day and night, and yet you still feel empty. And why? Because effort by itself does not guarantee blessing. How many live weary, exhausted, joyless, even though they are producing much? But if the work was not ordered by the Lord, then all becomes vanity. Sweat without purpose is a burden, not an honor. To produce much while carrying sorrow in the heart is a clear sign that the soul is misaligned with the Creator. Understand this. God does not reward frantic striving, anxiety, or endless activity without direction. What He honors is diligence with purpose. If you do not know for whom and why you do what you do, you have already begun to grow poor, even if your pockets are filled with silver. And here I want to uncover for you the forgotten secret of joy in work. I tell you plainly, it is not salary that brings satisfaction, not numbers, not gains. It is the awareness that you are fulfilling a divine mission. The man who seeks only profit will reap only weariness, because his soul will never be content. But the one who labors as a faithful servant of the Lord, even if he is not the richest, experiences a peace that no money can purchase. That is why I wrote, God gives joy to the one who pleases Him. This joy does not depend on how much you own, but on knowing your life is centered in the will of God. So, wise man, if your work today feels like a weight, if your routine seems like a prison, perhaps it is time to reflect, not merely on what you do, but on whom you do it for. Wise man, hear with me now another portion of the word. Let us go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 29. Listen closely. Do you see a man skilled and diligent in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not serve obscure men. This was my way of showing that excellence joined with diligence has a power no shortcut can offer. It is not only about working hard, but about working with wisdom, skill, and faithfulness in what God has placed in your hands. And I also wrote in my song, in the Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 6, do not look upon me with scorn because of my appearance, for my own brothers made me take care of their vineyards, and thus I neglected my own vineyard. What I meant to teach here is profound. Even I, Solomon, was reminded that if you do not care for what is yours, no one else will. Listen well, wise man. Many of you pour yourselves into the fields of others, yet abandon the calling the Lord entrusted to you. You are diligent in the projects of others, but negligent with your personal mission. You work to the point of exhaustion, but you live unsatisfied, for there is no fruit when your vineyard remains uncared for. The wise man understands that his vineyard, his gifts, his family, his mission is his responsibility. If you do not tend it, if you do not water it with discipline and prayer, no one will do it in your place. The weariness you feel may not come from too much work, but from a lack of purpose. And here I reveal to you a secret. Diligence does not only bring prosperity, it opens doors of honor. See what I declared in Proverbs. The man skilled and diligent stands before kings. This means that when you work with excellence, when you are faithful in the little and careful with what has been entrusted to you, God Himself takes charge of placing you in positions your own efforts could never reach. The diligent man does not run desperately after opportunities. He himself becomes a living opportunity. He is sought, he is called, he is remembered. Therefore, wise man, tend your vineyard. Do not waste your life serving only dreams that are not yours. Work, yes, Serve, yes, but never neglect what God has placed under your care. Your vineyard is sacred. Align your labor with your mission, and you will see that the reward will not come merely from men, but from the Lord himself, who honors those who honor him with diligence. The sluggard wounds, those he loves, the diligent builds shelter. Wise man, allow me now to open two treasures of the word to enlighten your mind and your heart. First, let us go to the Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 15, where I wrote, "Catch for us the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, for our vineyards are in bloom." Then let us turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verses 23 through 27. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks, and pay careful attention to your herds. For riches do not last forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. When the hay is gone and new growth appears, and the grass of the hills is gathered in, the lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. You will have plenty of goat's milk to feed you and your family, and to nourish your servant girls. Do you see, wise man, how in both vineyards and flocks the secret is not brute strength, but constant and attentive care? It is not the great wolves that destroy the harvest, but the little foxes that go unnoticed. In the same way, it is not visible poverty that destroys a house, but hidden neglect. A harsh word spoken in weariness, a delay that repeats until it becomes abandonment, a distracted glance that wounds more deeply than the absence of bread. This is what I want to open your eyes to. Neglect does not only touch your finances, it pierces your home. Listen carefully, wise man. You may sustain a house with money, you may fill cupboards and secure vaults, but gold does not build a home. What truly establishes a shelter is presence, daily care, and an attentive heart. Relational diligence is as sacred a calling as diligence in labor. Just as the shepherd knows his sheep by name, just as the vine dresser inspects every branch of the vine, so you must look upon those entrusted to your care. Your wife, your children, your brothers. For there is no true prosperity before God if those you love live wounded by your absence. And here I must expose the fatal error that many commit. How many say with conviction, "I am doing all this for them." Yet when I look more closely, I see they are never truly with them. They trade time for excuses, presence for provision, affection for justifications. They build castles of gold upon foundations of sand. And what happens when the storm arrives? It all collapses, for there was no foundation of presence. I ask you, wise man, what good is it to amass wealth if around your table grows only loneliness? The diligent man does not measure only his gains at work. He measures the health of his bonds. He knows how to divide his attention and invest time where love is called to flourish. For he understands that the heart is more fragile than the purse, and the truest inheritance he will leave is not material wealth, but the bonds he has cultivated with patience, with words, with gestures, with faith. Wise man, walk with me now into another passage that adds depth to our reflection. Let us open Proverbs chapter 12, verse 11. He who works his land will have abundant food, but he who chases fantasies lacks judgment. And immediately I will take you to the Psalms, chapter 128, verses 1 through 3, where my father David wrote, "Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. Do you see, wise man, how these two texts weave together like threads of a single fabric. One speaks of the necessity of working your own land without being carried away by illusions or distractions. The other reveals that the true fruit of that labor is the joy of sitting at the table with your family, of seeing your wife flourish like a fruitful vine and your children grow strong like olive shoots. Here lies the balance that so many lose sight of. It is not enough to work hard if your heart does not find rest at the family table. And here I must confront you with a truth that may sting. How many times have you said you were busy, but in reality, you were not tending your land? How many times have you deceived yourself with projects, commitments, distractions that seemed important, but in truth, only pulled you away from family and faith? This is modern sloth, wise man. It does not appear as a body lying idle in bed, but as a restless mind always full of plans yet empty of priorities. The wise man learns to distinguish between fruitful labor and fantasies in disguise. To prosper is not only to fill your pockets, but also to sit at the table with your children, to listen to your wife without haste, to laugh with your brothers, to pray with your family. For if your table is empty of love, your heart will always hunger, even if your refrigerator is full. And my father David grasped something I cannot withhold from you. He understood that the man who fears the Lord prospers in every area, not just in work. True prosperity is seeing your wife flourish as a strong vine, seeing your children sprout as firm and vigorous olive shoots. And this does not happen by chance, but by relational diligence. Wise man, it is not enough to manage business and finances well. You must also cultivate hearts, words of love, constant presence, acts of care, shared prayer. All of this is invisible sowing, but it yields an enduring harvest. I tell you with full authority, no gold is worth more than a home filled with peace. For what use is it to have barns overflowing if the doors of your house are closed to communion? Wise man, I want you now to pause once again. Take a deep breath and let this moment be between you and God. Reflect. What have you neglected under the excuse of lack of time? Who has been wounded by your absence, even if unintentional? Pray now. Ask forgiveness. Ask direction. Let this instant be a mark of repentance and restoration in your life. And remember, if you wish to share your prayer request, write it in the comments. Speak your name, your city, your struggle. We are a brotherhood of wise men, and where 2 or 3 gather in prayer, the Lord is present to hear and to act. Wise man, we have reached the final moment of our journey together. I want you to keep in your heart what has been spoken from the very beginning. The diligent hand makes rich, but the lazy hand makes poor. Understand that this is not merely about finances or material accumulation. This is a spiritual warning, a profound call to realize that true prosperity before God begins in the heart, but it is revealed in daily actions. It is in practical living, in daily labor, in small gestures and decisions that it becomes clear whether you are diligent or slothful. Look at the path we have walked together. In work, We have learned that diligence means faithfulness in honoring the time of sowing, planting even when the climate does not appear favorable, refusing to waste opportunities while waiting for perfect conditions that will never come. In purpose, we have seen that it is not enough to sweat and wear yourself out in aimless efforts. True joy is found when labor is aligned with divine calling, bringing peace and satisfaction because we know for whom we work. In relationships, we have discovered that diligence is presence. It is being at the table, it is listening, it is caring, it is watering bonds with time and affection. For a house may have wealth, but it only becomes a home when it is sustained by the presence of those who love. Now I tell you, wise man, you were not called to live in frantic hurry, anxious, chasing after bread, as if you were a slave to necessity. No, you were called to administer abundance with wisdom. The diligent man serves with excellence, but not with anxiety. He understands that the harvest will come at the appointed time, not by the strength of his arms, but by the fear of the Lord, who honors faithfulness and perseverance. Therefore, if you desire to be this man, prosperous in work, in purpose, and in relationships, do not wait any longer. Do not say, "Tomorrow I will begin." Do not say, "When everything is easier." Begin now with what is already in your hands. For blessing walks hand in hand with diligence. And I assure you, God honors the man who honors the time, the mission, and the people entrusted to him. What I have shared with you today was not meant to stir emotions, but to bring transformation. Apply it. Put it into practice. For only the one who not only hears but also practices the wisdom entrusted to him will truly prosper. And if every word has found a place in your heart, do not keep it only for yourself. Live by them and share this counsel with another man who needs to hear, whether a friend, a brother, or a father. Let this wisdom reach many homes, many lives. May this channel be a bridge of divine wisdom that builds up men and families. Subscribe and remain with me, for I still have many counsels to give you. Counsels that will feed your mind and strengthen your spirit during your rest after a long, hard day of work.